That's an interesting meeting.
Yeah, it was. Hello, doggy. My dog was wondering who I'm talking to in an empty room. So he had to come out and inspect. Here. Say hello, Yeager. We're just moving into our house.
Oh, congratulations. That must be nice.
Yes. It's only been 2.5 years in coming.
All right.
We bought the house and then one disaster after another.
Ooh.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys, if you're curious, the live feed. I'm also going to put it on LinkedIn under this event, and then we will get started. All right, and with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, everyone see it all right?
Yep.
All right, so welcome. Remember, stay on mute if you're not talking. Stay connected with us. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to CleanStart Perspectives, our second one here.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm switching machines.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and... All right. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone to CleanStart Perspectives with Charley Ansbach, Executive Associate of Evolution Accelerator. I'm really excited today because there's been a lot of questions from the audience about how to grow your company recently. And before we get to that, I want to recognize our sponsors: SMUD, Moss Adams, Sacramento State, PIM Motion, which specifically sponsored the CleanStart Perspectives, Blue Tech Valley, Weintraub Tobin, and a whole host of other people who have donated during these. And if you want to support us and keep these going, we always welcome donations. And if you're curious about how you can do that, I'm going to put a link to these slides here, and you can just go and click on the keep this going. All right. Also, some announcements. Next week, we have Dean Smith of the College of Engineering and Computer Science sharing their programs. We also have a Clean Tech Mobility Clean Tech Meetup, Future of the Utility, which I'm really excited about because we have Camus Energy and we have a Sac State professor who they're going to be talking about, what is the future of the grid? In order for us to get to 100% renewables, there are things that need to happen in the grid and updates that need to happen to the electric market. And this is a great place to kind of learn about what those are and what some companies are doing and what research is happening in that area. I also want to highlight that we have the Business Focus Seminar on October 28th. You must register to join that. And if you're at all interested in rideshare and mobility, there are two things up here you need to check out. Tomorrow, the virtual 1 Million Cups has Mingo Rideshare presenting, and the Subtle Showcase, Future Mobility. Subtle stands for Sacramento Urban Technology Lab. And they're going to be talking about all sorts of mobility, including the California Mobility Center. And if you want more support on entrepreneurial startups, check out the Virtual Toolkit series from Sac State. And later this month, there is the Emerging Technology Summit. So if you go in here, you can click on these and learn more about them. And with that, I want to welcome Charley, Executive Associate of Evolution Accelerator. And just tell me when to say next slide, Charley, and take it away.
Very good. Thanks a lot. really appreciate, number one, being here and on behalf of Evolution. One of the things that you're going to hear as we're going through this is the emphasis was on the original discussion with CleanTech was on what does Evolution do, and how does it tie into the needs of the clean tech field here in Sacramento and beyond. So we're focus in on that. And then one of the issues that came up that Thomas and I were discussing was my specialty, topic I teach over at, or topics I teach over at UC Davis, a history that I have in business that relates to social entrepreneurship at an early stage before it had that name, and the ideas of sustainability and corporate responsibility and the opportunities for clean tech in those fields, or in that aspect of fulfilling for companies that aspect of perhaps their strategic planning. So we'll get to that. And so right now, if you would switch the slide, I'll tell you a little bit about Evolution. So let's go to slide number 1. There we go. So what do? We raise the entrepreneurial IQ of companies. One of the leaders on this, well, the founder and leader of Evolution is Alex Chomp. And Alex came out of Silicon Valley, working with then the leader in spawning companies and investment and all in innovation, and that was Kleiner Perkins. Kleiner Perkins was at the time for him. And so he brought that expertise here to Sacramento and decided that Sacramento looked an awful lot like the Valley in its early days, and that there was an opportunity to grow businesses in the region in much the same manner, but differently, uniquely, very specifically for this area, but around the same fundamental principles that grew the businesses that Kleiner Perkins was involved with when he was there. So we connect entrepreneurs with, and I'm sorry, I'm going to move my own lovely face here out of the way of the slides so that I don't, yeah, I'm accurate on it. So connect entrepreneurs with critical resources, and we prepare companies for investment. How do we do it? We serve as advisors, matchmakers, and we introduce qualified investors to great companies and great opportunities. And so who we serve are growth companies in a wide range of fields. We help prepare that for investment. And the average portfolio raising about $2.5 million and upwards to around 10. So what's all that mean? Again, the IQ, the entrepreneurial IQ around investing, a lot of companies come and are talking to Evolution, and they're not quite clear on how to present themselves and present their value to investors. But more than anything, they sometimes leave themselves off of the equation and leave money on the table of their own at the time of investment. In other words, companies come in looking for investment capital, but in those important moments when percentages are exchanged in those deals, is that many entrepreneurs are unaware of how to retain and what to retain in those negotiations, so that in the end, when it comes time for an exit or the next round of financing, that they as owners don't end up progressively at the wrong end of that value stick, where they end up with very little. And one of Alex Chomp's goals is to make sure that that's not the case, that the entrepreneur, the owners, end up in a reasonable and positive position. So we serve as advisors in that kind of regard, and we invite companies to take a look right away at we have an assessment on a readiness for financing assessment. And we invite companies and individuals to go to the website. We publish that and say, take this assessment on your own, and then come and talk with us if you find out that there's a need and that we might be able to help you. So we like to help companies prepare for and do a self-inspection of how ready are you? And if you're not ready, what are the holes? And then how do you fill them? So next slide, please. These are some of the companies right now that we're assisting. It's a wide range of companies, ranging from company that collects huge data off of airplanes and then uses that to help manage repair on an effective and regular basis. We have a body armor company. We have companies in the clean tech space dealing with wind, hydrogen, cleaning up waste from a demolition company, and learning how to recycle and improve revenue and reduce cost and distinguish brand as a result. Next slide, please. This is a team. The team is really diverse in the sense of the ability to cover the full range of issues that companies come wanting some help with, from marketing to financial management, to operations management, to investment preparation, to social media marketing, all of those included in that mix. Next slide, please. So we begin with, in the beginning, it's relatively cool to knock on a door. We meet a friend, the principal, the analyst, the partner. We begin with, where are you? Where are you in this process? When you're in the middle, you're kind of warming up. You've got your elevator pitch. You begin to ask for an executive summary, ask for the deck, give your first pitch, meet the team. That's where we start working a little bit more effectively with, where are you, and how prepared are you to make this pitch for funding? And in the end, we're really going through, partners go through due diligence, legal due diligence, final negotiations, get funded. So we work with companies from the very beginning of their journey towards financing, in the middle where they're kind of started, but they need now to really build and refine. And in the end, when you're actually in the heat of making those presentations and meeting with investors. And so help all the way along that continuum of taking companies from point A to point B in securing financing. So we don't do financing. We don't work with companies to actually put them in front of financiers until they're fully vested and vetted in terms of their preparedness to be in front of those. We don't want failure. And we don't want failure for the companies, and we don't want failure for the investors. So long and short of it is, by the time we're ready to present and a company is in our portfolio, we really work to make sure that all of the doors of objection by investors have been addressed and hopefully closed. Next slide, please. So another example, this is one of the gentlemen that I work with in the portfolio, Dr. Woodall, global innovator in material science, an amazing fellow to work with. And his innovations are totally disruptive in several fields. And so working with him to develop now and take his innovations to investors and ultimately to the market is a real pleasure. Next slide, please. Wind Harvest, another company, low altitude wind energy company that is very innovative, and enjoy working with them greatly, as they right now are in an interesting time in which they're testing a crowdfunding approach to their next stage of finance, and then talking to private investors on top of or in addition to that. Next slide, please. So for more information about Evolution, then invite companies that are interested to contact the firm, and let us find out if we can be of any assistance, and where exactly you are in that continuum, and whether or not we can help you get from where you are today to financing. But beyond that, or in addition to that, a number of the groups that I get to talk to, they're not really in the end looking for financing. They really are learning to treat themselves as an investor. In other words, where do you want to end up? How are you treating yourself in terms of return on the company you're building? How are you building that company to create that return? And so, as much as getting additional money in the door to grow the company, it's helping to ensure that the founders and current owners are building the value that they themselves will benefit from, as much as preparing to engage other people's resources from the outside as investors or partners. So that's pretty much a summary of, and I invite you to go to the website and encourage that, and then contact us. If there's some questions or opportunities to have a discussion, this group is wide open and eager to help companies in the Sacramento and greater Sacramento region grow. We're getting inquiries from really other parts of the country now, as we're starting to be recognized as a hub for acceleration that offers some effective support. So that's a pretty good summary about us. And I know we're going to open up to questions and all towards the end, and I'm going to be real happy to answer those. I want to go to the next slide, please, and launch a discussion about, and ultimately questions about, sustainability and responsibility and market opportunities for clean tech. This is my interest. And when I joined Evolution, for those that know me in prior work here in the Sacramento and outside of this region, I spent a long time owning a company that raised hundreds of millions of dollars, or helped to raise that, for NGOs, nonprofits here and other parts of the world. And when I joined it, and I also was among early social entrepreneurs before that field had its name here in the US. And I was lucky enough to conceive a project that got national attention, and that kind of launched me into my next phase of building business. And my real interest, and I ended up teaching over at UC Davis. I taught for a while at University of Pacific, now at UC Davis Graduate School of Management, on corporate responsibility and sustainability and social entrepreneurship. And when I talked to Alex, when I was first getting involved with Evolution, I said, talk to me about where you see me adding value. And it was in this same field, around how to help companies, one, appeal to this market, and number two, to take part in being part of and making sure that their companies were sustainable and responsible. So one, selling to that side of the market, or that aspect of the market, and the other is fulfilling that part as companies. And so United Nations their population division did a study back a couple of years ago, predicting that the middle class around the world would by 2030 would double from about 2.5 billion to 5 billion. And in the course of that growth, that the demand for stuff, any kind of products, from transportation to to energy drinks or diapers or whatever was going to grow commensurately. But that growth would run headlong into the limitation on the availability of resources to produce the natural resources and all to produce those products and labor. And so we started looking at then, well, what do we do? And the Cradle to Cradle Institute said, we don't need less consumption, we need better products. And the logic then that followed was exactly that. How do we come up with better products? And clean tech is right at the heart of those solutions. So you would believe that the majority of companies, if you go around the CEOs around the world, the majority will say, yes, sustainability, yes, I want to do that. Many of them say government must set the regulations so that it's not more costly for me to do that than my competitor, but we're all behind it. Well, what you really find is that most companies are stuck at the beginning of sustainability. A fellow by the name of Gilbert Hedstrom, in his book, What's Sustainability and How Do You Measure It? Did a lot of consulting, or does a lot of consulting worldwide to major corporations, and finds that most corporations, if clean tech is selling to the majority of corporations to help fulfill their sustainability and responsibility agendas or opportunities, run into dead ends or long-term contemplations and endless discussion, but a lack of sales, or a long sales process that often doesn't end well. And why is this? It's because most companies don't know what sustainability actually means. And they are looking at their competitors to say, well, find out what they're doing so that I don't do any more than what they're doing, because I'm not sure that I want to invest in this, don't know how to carry it out, but I do know we have to say that we're doing it. So at this point, we're doing it. How much of it? We don't know yet. How to do it? We don't know yet. But just don't let our competitors get out in front of us on it. Meanwhile, there are a few within that marketplace that are doing a lot. And they are the real market for the clean tech opportunities in sales in their particular industries. So how then do you make those sales? My interest is I'm in front of a company that wants, I have a clean tech firm. I think I can solve your sustainability or opportunities or problems and put you ahead in your industry. Yet I'm running into difficulty with you. First of all, and so my question is, what value are you proposing that you're bringing? Sustainability represents to companies a range of measurable benefits, everything from risk mitigation, top talent attraction, cost reduction, pioneer market opportunities, brand differentiation, increased revenues. Those are all individualized, measurable impacts that sustainable practices can have on a company. And so the first thing is to understand, or sometimes I'm in discussion with some companies on what is the value that you're presenting to these companies? What are their problems? What are the issues they're trying to solve? Because sustainability and responsibility often are not the terms that they'll use for the problems they're trying to solve. So understanding what is it that you're helping them, either the value you're helping them create or the problem you're helping them mitigate. How aware are you of their problems in their industry or their opportunities? And the second is, who are you talking to? If you were talking, a good classic example was in a book by Keely McElhaney called Just Good Business. And she described her role as going in and helping companies discover their opportunities in corporate responsibility. He said, one of the problems, he said, you go in and talk to a company and say, what are your top 3 priorities? He said, you talk to a CEO and the CEO is going to say, sales, and sales. But you talk to the HR department, and the HR department says, no, we actually can't afford to do new sales. We don't have talent. We don't have sufficient talent, and we're not attracting them. And one of the items that attracts now younger, brighter, energetic, innovative workforce is the degree to which companies are behaving sustainably and responsibly in the marketplace. And as clean tech providers, one of the opportunities is to help either introduce, either is a product that you're acquiring, a partnership in which that we're forming, or an acquisition that takes sustainability and responsibility from the periphery of your company to its core value creation. And so how can I help you as a clean tech company? How can I help you get to your objectives as the company I want to work with? And so the change of discussion, there was a great article written actually back in 2016, 7 Tips for Selling Clean Technologies to Big Companies in Government by Dennis, I'll spell his last name, Kzniatosou. Don't even ask me to try to pronounce it. Very good, brief article on 7 tips for selling clean technologies to big companies and government. And one of those issues that he raised was, again, who are you talking to? And what are their priorities? What are the problems they're trying to solve? Personally, I see, and I'm enthusiastic about at Evolution, is that clean tech is indeed, first of all, a market in its own right. But it also is an enormous problem solver for other companies reaching their sustainability and responsibility goals. But again, it's not so much in reaching goals as much as solving problems or taking advantage of opportunities to take leadership roles in a particular industry. So how can I help you mitigate your negative externality or your market failures of your company or your industry? And what are the measurable outcomes of that and the metric that we can use? And how can my company in clean tech help you achieve that? That's to me of great interest. And those discussions can be very rich. And my interest is seeing it lead to sales, seeing it lead to increased value, and ultimately into investability of clean tech firms in order to attract capital and grow. So that to me is an opportunity that clean tech companies have. You all are, those of you who are in that industry, are deep into this. I'm very interested in and very engaged in that discussion. How do you sell more clean tech? How do we develop more market? And how do we attract more investment into that field, this field? Because I think it's so important. As a matter of fact, I think it's vital. So that, I think, is kind of a summary, kind of brings you up to speed a little bit from inside Evolution and taking it from my particular point of view. Those who I'm working with in Evolution are really good at taking that and going, yes, but how do those numbers work internally? What's that look like in building value in your company? Those that say a marketing side, how does that translate into how to market? Those in social responsibility or in social media, how do we get the word out in a new and more effective way? And operationally, how do you operationalize this? Any changes in the company that you need in order to increase your value, your investability, and your value to yourself as a core investor. So that pretty much brings me up to a summary or a conclusion about, give you a glimpse of what we think about at Evolution. And now I'd like to just kind of open it up and discuss. I can tell you in my classes, I'm enthused about the level of questioning and the level of interest that middle managers who come back for their MBA and young students who are starting out at that level now with their education, the quality of the questions and the enthusiasm and interest around these issues of sustainability, responsibility, clean tech, and others is immense. and I'm so excited every time I stand in front of and start working with one of those classes. UC Davis does a tremendous job. I'll pump them a little bit because they're really good. And at the grad level in particular on these topics, because they think it's real important. I was just spoken to by the office in charge of developing these curriculum, and they said, no, this is something that we see here as vital to new management. They have to understand this. And so I'm excited about it. I love seeing the students in this, take this on and really dig into it.
Okay.
So let me talk about questions. Thomas, why don't you?
I got one question for you. So you talked a little bit about clean technologies going in there and trying to get that sale. Often you have an emerging technology that maybe someone you're trying to sell to isn't necessarily familiar with. Any suggestions on how you go about and get that kind of, or at least that first connection, or get past through the door of that first company, if you have an innovative solution that the company might not be familiar with?
My urge, and it's a wonderful question, and it's far more, as you would probably think, it's a layered question, and one that we could spend and do spend a good deal of time on. My first one is, don't go in to sell the technology, find out the problem that they have that you're trying to help them solve. If I go in and try and say, hey, I've got this really good stuff, let me try and explain it to you, it's really, no, I want to really find, I have a problem solver for you. If I can come in from that angle, I am in a much better position than I am trying to sell an understanding of a technology that you don't know anything about. What I can do is I can focus in on your problem if I understand it and say, I think I may be able to solve that problem. You won't have heard of the solution or the methodology that I'm going to use, but I am going to demonstrate to you how it works and why it will solve your problem. But my main issue is to solve your problem. And so if I can divert the conversation away from the lack of understanding about my technology and my requirement to prove to you that it's really a great technology, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my time on that. I want to spend my time on what's your problem, and I think I can help you solve it. And here are some of the basic points about how I'll solve it with my technology. You don't have to know how the black box works if you don't want to, but that it'll solve your problem, that's what we should be talking about.
Excellent. That's, I think that's right up with customer discovery that everyone talks about. Brian, your hand up, you got a question?
Yes, I do. I just said I'm doing. So when you're talking to these people, I do want to know, do you talk to them about their merchant processing? Because there's so many different varieties out there. I'm a broker, okay? And there's so many different things changing quite rapidly in terms of technology and in terms of what is legally allowed. Just this year, we have a cash discount program and a cash surcharge program. There are so many different programs that can affect a beginning or a company's bottom line. Do you talk about that? Are you up to date on that? Do you need information on that?
One, I am always personally, I'm always open to information. I am somebody who likes to learn and understand, because yes, this field and everything around it is constantly changing right now at a speed faster than light. And so to shut off learning at any point is, to me, an error. So am I knowledgeable about the aspect you're bringing up an aspect of enterprise and value creation and development and marketing that I would have to say, let me bring in somebody else on the team who's very skilled in that, which is a great part of working with a team.
I'd like to be part of that team. And part of what I'm saying is that we're discovering that 4%, up to 4% of your outgoing expenses can be eliminated. And that can be quite a bit of money, because
Absolutely.
it's a new revenue stream that doesn't cost anything for you to obtain.
Come over and talk to us.
Yeah.
It's not so much that, by what I'm hearing you say, is I'm not looking at for Evolution to help me build my business. I'm looking to funnel information and exchange information and see if there are mutual ways in which we can help companies grow. If I'm hearing your statement correct, or your kind of query, so come and talk with us, and let's sit down and find out how can what you do and what Evolution does let us understand each other a little bit better. Before I would jump to any conclusion about what will that look like, I'd rather sit down and begin. Let's find out where we both are and what value we have.
Can you send me your phone number, Charlie?
Absolutely, or go right to the website.
Evolution Accelerator, acceleration.com.
Yes, please. And Marcia Rogers, who's there, is our conduit in, and Aaron French is all of our client manager. But Marcia will get you right to the right person, and I will, certainly relay this. But yeah, just come on over and let's chat.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you. Any other questions out there? I see Eva Shepard, welcome. I know we have a lot of clean tech companies out there from our accelerator recently that are looking for that kind of first customer and figuring out how to, I guess, figure out their relationship with them. Any questions out there? Aaron, Miss Oli? Okay, well, I've got a kind of another one on it. You talked about companies when they're in this negotiating period, trying to fundraise money, leaving funds on the table. What do you think is what's a good way to, one, prevent that from happening, and what's the most common kind of thing that gets overlooked or the entrepreneur undervalues that they have?
Yeah, this is, again, I'm going to point to Alex Chomp as the CEO here, leader of the band over at Evolution. And this is where he and our wealth manager, Cullen, really excel in looking at companies and making sure that at the time of investment, there's a whole lot of, and they are subtleties that I marvel at as I get in and sit in on some of these sessions, and they discover in working with a particular investor who's very sophisticated about what to ask for in the investment process, it goes beyond percentages, but goes into the delicacies of what kind of investment, what kind of ownership, what kind of stock are you getting, what kinds of rights are you getting along the way. And what many companies or what many entrepreneurs are, they're very eager at that point to get money in the door. I need this capital to grow. You're telling me you want 20% and I'm willing to give you 20%. Let's go, because I need the money. And what happens at that moment is what that 20% looks like. What are the characteristics and the agreements that go with what that stock or what the tenets of that stock ownership look like? And again, this is not my specialty. So Alex and Cullen sit down and begin to pick through, well, no, you don't want to do that, because you won't end up with anything at the next round, because your dilution will be such that you'll end up with very little, and those that own the stock in the company, who are the investors, will own an unreasonable amount more than you. So let's protect that. Let's negotiate that now. And don't let those small pieces accumulate by the end of the multiple rounds of financing you will have to go through in order to grow your company over time. Because those little percentages slip out the door at each of those times of negotiation. And that's the part that in the end, when you go to exit, the original founders, owners who built all this can find themselves. It's not always happened, but they can find themselves with very little of that final pie, and or far less than what they could have had if they'd have been a little bit more meticulous in their negotiations in each of those rounds. And again, That's an expertise that I don't possess, but that others on the Evolution team are very, very strong in.
Awesome. Okay, so do you have any other questions for people out there? All right. Well, I want to thank you for putting on a great talk today. Encourage people to go and check it out on YouTube and share it. I think there's a lot of good information out in there. Also, follow up with Evolution. Go to their website. I believe you said you had a
Readiness
tool in there.
assessment, yeah.
Yeah, readiness assessment. And they go take the readiness assessment, connect with them. And I really wanted to call back to one of the things that you said is just going in there and asking people or companies about the problems they need to solve.
Yes.
That if you get too focused on your technology, you end up talking to them about, about yourself. Whereas what you want to do is get them to talk about what's stressing them out.
Exactly. If I can help you solve your problem, if I can make your company more profitable, if I can get you out of harm's way and mitigate your risk, if regulation is creeping into your industry and I as a clean tech can keep you less vulnerable to that problem, if I can help you attract the best, youngest minds because you're clearly a company that wants to innovate and lead the field, talk to me about who you are and let me see if I can help you solve that problem.
And we did have that recorded. So if anyone wants to hear it again, go out there and listen to it and then put it in your own words and pitch that to a company. And with that, I want to thank all of you for attending, encourage you to stay connected and check out future perspectives along with our Future of the Utility Meetup. Additional thanks to our program sponsors and our community of partners, which does include Evolution Accelerator down here. Thank you very much for coming, Charlie. I'm going to stop the share right now and in the recording. Anyone else have any additional questions for Charlie? All right. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right.